When you observe things so much, you start realizing trivial things, like the fact all objects have to have an ending part that protects them from the outside world. Example, your hand ends with fingernails, or a tatami mat that ends with a cloth band to protect its boundaries, and a rug that has binding on the edges so it doesn't unravel, and a shoe which ends with the outsole. In military and sports jackets, that part is called ribbing, the ending parts of the jacket that endure a lot of friction. Why is this important? 99% of all ribs today are made out of plastic rubbers, acrylic, and polyethylene. And to make ribs the old way, like in the 1920s, one would need to make natural fabric stretch and snap back without rubber. This would need magic or geometry. Here's how. There are two basic knitting moves, knit and purl, repeated endlessly. To explain this simply, think of knit as mountain and purl as valley. If you repeat mountain, valley, you create rows of bumps and gaps. Those bumps and gaps act like folds and accordion lines. So when you stretch the fabric sideways, the gaps open. When you release, they naturally close again. Exactly like an accordion. That's why ripped cuffs stretch and then hug your wrist back. Perfect. Now, for the 80s sports jacket, since we're making everything touching the skin made out of 100% natural materials, I reached out to over 30 different knitting factories in Japan asking for 100% natural rippings, and all of them said they only knit synthetic blends, and the only way to make ours is to knit them from scratch. Initially, I thought rippings would be the easier part, but I ended up taking 1.5 months. I made 8 samples at 8 different knitting factories across Japan. I started from Tokyo, Niigata, Ishikawa, and ended up through Wakayama, Fukuoka, and Nagoya. Almost 45 days back and forth. And to see which ripping feels best and ages better over time, I tested different gauges from 7 to 12 gauges. This is what controls the chunkness of the rip. And also I tested different structural patterns, 2x1, 1x1, and 2x2 to control the tightness. For the first sample, the feel was great but felt chunky. So for the second sample, we're going with 2x2 100% cotton, which should match beautifully. Also, I made a quick comparison between natural and synthetic blends as follows. Synthetic rips tend to remain rigid for years, then suddenly crack and peel. They cost much cheaper than natural ripping. Natural rips remain rigid, then relax slowly. They age and shape according to how they're worn and used. They feel vintage with touch. For cost, they are 3 times more expensive than synthetic ripping on average. For the 80s sports jacket, several hundred pieces will be made worldwide in a pre-order format, so I highly recommend registering for the early access list.